Alright, so BMW has the new Neue Klasse X concept, which is essentially what the new iX3 is going to look like. And I am not, I don't know what I think about this design. The front end with these two small little kidneys in the front, there's something that is off with it, but at the same time, this is a massive leap in the right direction when it comes to BMW's design language, and specifically when you compare it to the iX, which is not one of BMW's design highlights throughout their history. So I want to show you the design sketches of this, because the sketches look fantastic, and then also of course show you the front, side, rear, and the interior. We're going to talk about that in Photoshop. Before we do that, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver, link down below. What is going on with this Neue Klasse X concept? BMW shows us a preview of what's likely the next generation all-electric iX3 coming next year. So this is one of the future concept vehicles to preview the next generations of BMW's electric lineup. Now, they did show us the Neue Klasse sedan concept, and I was hoping, really hoping, that that would be the front end that BMW would put on this Klasse X, but that did not happen. You can see it, Car and Driver even rendered it down here. So let's just quickly have a look at this. And this is exactly what I wanted the new iX3 to look like. This looks great. It looks so much better. The front end grille is not forced into this otherwise very simplistic design like we have on the concept up here. This just looks, it looks too harsh for me, but more on that in a minute. So this is supposed to go into production in 2025. BMW says it looks very close to the production form. It has reimagined the kidney grills as a dynamic element that's illuminated and backlit, making it look like something you could reach into. It has this 3D effect to it. Now looking at it here you can see the sedan concept down here, and the iX concept, and just how much more harmonic this design looks like. If we could just take this design and put a little bit more design features onto it, I think it would look so much better than to have this grille. I do understand that this is inspired by the old 2002, but having that style on a brand new modern looking, where everything else is modernized, to me it just doesn't work as well as it did on the 2002, obviously. It makes sense of movement in their designs, and while they don't move, we're talking about the headlights here. The headlights and illuminated kidney grille activate and dance as an animation for driver approach and departure. This is also a new trend where you approach the vehicle. It gives you some sort of greeting with its light. I think it's a pretty cool idea, I guess. It has 22-inch wheels, and the wheel design look great here on this car in this format. I think 22s is the way to go. It really fills out the wheelhouses nicely. You also have two 95mm rear tires, which I'm not sure that is going to make it into production, because that would not be optimal for range, even though I would personally want to have it and have less range. Beefier tires, BMW X5 4.8 style of my iX. The Neue Klasse X is slightly larger than the current X3, and the interior feels as spacious as an X5. It offers an incredibly configurable panoramic vision dashboard. You can see the interior here and just how simplistic everything is these days. Just one single screen on the dash, then you have this big bar of screen up here. So everything is screens. You can drag and drop whatever you want onto this screen. I guess that's how it works, I'm not entirely sure. The infotainment display at the center of the dashboard replaces the iDrive controller, typically situated at the center console. You can play video games, upload personal images and themes for use as background, and you can also show your Instagram feed on these displays. Consumer electronics mixed with some automotive design, mixed with social media. That is what cars are headed to. While performance is often measured in acceleration time and highway range tests, BMW is working hard to win the lesser known range of computing. And this is a new network of communication is set to be a breakthrough for future automated driving. Now, BMW has always had this very, very great slogan, the ultimate driving machine. And I really hope they're not stepping away too far from that and have it be the ultimate transportation machine or something like that, because it's all about the driving when it comes to BMW. So don't make all the cars too autonomous when it comes to the driving experience, specifically not for a BMW. And this, you can see that the overall design of this, the exterior design, does not look like a bean shape, and it still have roughly 20% better reduction in drag compared to its current SUV. So that means that we don't need to design bean shapes for EVs. How fantastic is that? We can still make some cool looking cars. Improved charge speeds as well. It can mean that the range is about 240 miles. And production is set to begin sometime in 2025. With that said, let's jump in here, have a look at the sketches. First of all, for the Neue Klasse X. I think that's the name of it. This is all digital sketches, even though it's supposed to look like, you know, pencil sketches, these ones. But I do think the proportions, specifically in the from the rear end and in these sketches, they look very beefy. But this still, if you imagine hand sketching this, it's not easy to follow these lines with your hand motions. And that makes me believe that this was maybe designed straight in a 3D software because of all this surfacing here. It doesn't have this human touch to it that we used to have just 4 or 5 years ago in car design. It feels like we're moving away from that as well. Here you can see this big muscle over the rear fender and these very sharp edges. Again, this looking still not, I'm not 100% sold on this design, but comparing it to the iX, for example, it just looks a lot better. Now looking at the front view here, if we just remove this piece, we just cover this up, and now it looks like a pretty cool looking SUV from BMW. But when we put this in, you can see just how forced these feel in the front, and they feel like they don't really belong in the front because everything else has long lines to it, while this has a lot of small little lines connecting to each other, creating the small kidneys in the front end. But we don't have any other design feature anywhere else on the car that has a connection to this type of styling for the graphics in the front. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I am going to make a redesign of this, and I'm not going to just put the sedan's front end onto the iX. I am going to still have these kidneys be intact in that redesign, but I'm going to figure out how to make them feel more welcomed in the front end on the Sketch Monkey channel sometime this week. And here we have the actual car. So looking at the front end, and not just do these feel like they are forced into the front end, they even emphasize that even more by having this 3D effect. So you have sort of mirrors in the back or something like that, backlit graphics for these kidneys, and they're also, of course, the frame itself is all lit up. But other than that, having this design, if we compare it with the sedan concept, which again I think looks so much better than this, and the reason for that is because in that design you had this feature, this big graphic feature, actually being the kidneys itself. So it cuts off something like this in the sedan concept, and then you have two bars like this, which symbolizes old BMW always having two main key design graphics for the headlights. I think that's a good idea. But now having all this modernized touch to it and then slapping in the old BMW 2002 grille onto this design, to me it just clashes too much, and it does not look harmonious in the front end at all. And then we have these big lines in the hood, which is typical for BMW these days. We also have a big intake in the lower section. I do actually like what's going on here in the lower section, even though it looks a lot like consumer electronics, product design, industrial design with these chamfers here. It doesn't have this emotional automotive design that I'm so used to. But unfortunately, I just think overall, car design and companies these days, that's the approach we're moving into, more of a digitalized feel, more of product design feel, with the exception for some exotic car companies, specifically Aston Martin, which still thankfully makes some of the most beautiful, emotional looking sculptures on wheels, and it doesn't feel like they're moving away from that anytime soon. Now looking at the side view here, a couple of more few interesting features for the side view. First of all, look at where the shoulder line sits. It sits all the way down here, and I'm not sure I've ever seen a shoulder line sit this low. We do have some subtle muscles over here, but there's not a sharp line in the front or in the back. Then we have these chamfers going around the wheelhouses, creating some more rugged feel, I guess. That's what they were going for, since this is an SUV. And so the first detail I want to bring attention to is the positioning of the shoulder line, which pulls all this mass further down to the ground. It doesn't really give it a lot of strength in the side. And then we have the wheels, which look great in this case. But the other key feature here is, first of all, the Hofmeister kink is intact right here, as you can see, typical BMW. I do like the roof line, how it slopes down like this. It has a nice curvature to it. And look at the relation here between the height of the bodywork. If we consider this starting point of the bodywork, because we have this big black piece at the bottom. If we look at the height of the greenhouse and the height of the bodywork, it's almost in the middle. So the greenhouse has now become a lot larger, and that is going back to older designs. Usually, the last few decades, greenhouses just shrunk and become a lot smaller and slimmer, making it look a lot more sporty. But you can see how deep this dips down into the body here with this line. Usually, it would just cut off right here and continue in a straight line going all the way back and have this be body color as well. So that is a pretty cool, I would say that's a cool design feature because it gives you a lot more visibility when you're sitting as a passenger and a driver here. And I don't really mind that at all. Now looking at the rear end here, and it's such a simplistic design, this car, that I'm not sure if I think this is supposed to be BMW's direction or not. But I do like the rear end a lot better than the front end because we don't have any sort of forced graphics in the rear. Everything here feels like it's supposed to be here, in contrast to the kidneys that we have in the front end. I kind of like these taillights. I maybe want to have them cut short. Probably do that in the redesign as well. Just cut this piece, have more body color in the centerpiece here, because this feels like they sort of wanted to have an LED bar in the middle, but they couldn't just reach all the way. They just came this close and then faded back, the taillights. Yeah, I want to have either have a light bar in the middle or separate them more, not this in-between feel that I'm feeling from this design. Further down, we do have a nicely integrated bumper. I do think this design is good looking, and we also have the same type of styling here in the corners like we have in the front end design. Clear, cool little diffuser at the bottom. Now, last but not least, let's look at this interior. So, a couple of things here. I don't think at all this is going to be what the production version looks like. At least, I hope not, because this is not the type of interiors that I want to see, and I'm sure you know that already. I'm also not sure what the reason for this angle is. Maybe they listened to some feedback, BMW designers, and decided to, instead of just having a static rectangle on the dash, we could just tilt it a little bit. The result here is not that it does not look better integrated at all in the interior. And we don't have anything going on in the steering wheel. Maybe there are some buttons or tactile stuff going on here, but this is a very concept car looking steering wheel. We're not going to get anything that looks anything near like this into the production version. Then you have this big bar of more information and more screens up top. I'm not really sure what else I can tell you about interiors like this, something new that I haven't told you already. It just it doesn't look exciting to me to sit inside of this car. There's nothing exciting about the interior of this car. There's nothing that I can explore, nothing that I can touch and feel different textures on. Everything looks to be some sort of fabric in here with some very hard and cold surfaces of screens, and that is personally not what I'm looking for in car interiors, which I've said so many times before. But these are the times we live in these days, so I do think this super minimalistic approach to interiors is just going to be the norm from now on. Hopefully will change further on, but who knows.